This video is brought to you by Skillshare. The biggest flippin' movie ever is about to come out, and I'm pretty excited for it. Actually, a lot of better skill than just better content creators are excited for it. That's why you should check out that special playlist I linked in the description. Nando V Movies decided to put together a group of remarkable YouTubers and talk about the long path to Endgame. Each creator was tasked with picking a single scene in the MCU and explaining what makes that scene so special. Check it out. It will help send your hype levels through the goddamn roof. Speaking of Endgame hype, I wouldn't say I'm freaking the hell out running back and forth to distract myself from the excitement. Maybe a few years ago I would have, but now I have this to worry about, so my fanboy nature has to take a back seat. Plus, I kind of have a complicated relationship with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't love it like I used to, and I don't hate it like those weird faux intellectuals on Twitter do.
Fuck Marvel!
I'm somewhere in the middle. Maybe I've seen too many of them, maybe I'm just getting older and my tastes are changing, but in all honesty, I think my disenchantment with modern Marvel comes from my distaste of the new ambassadors. You see, I love Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor, Bruce Banner, Black Widow, Peter Quill, Drax, Rocket, and all the original heroes. My heroes. Those guys were some of my idols growing up. Who didn't want to have the brains and charm of Tony Stark and the heart of Steve Rogers? I would watch those movies on repeat. My friend Josh and I would attempt to binge the entire franchise every time a new movie came out. I felt connected to these people, and seeing them come together for the first time is an experience that will stick with me until I'm an 80-year-old man on the verge of death. So yeah, I love these guys. They're about as close to my heart as fictional characters that are a part of a billion-dollar franchise can get. You know who I don't really love? What characters don't really click or stick with me? Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, this version of Peter Parker, T'Challa, Carol Danvers, and pretty much any new character introduced after Vision. I don't really care about those guys. Honestly, I wish I cared about these new guys as much as some of you probably do. I can't tell you why I don't care. Maybe the writing isn't as stellar, maybe the films featuring those characters don't hit me the same way as the older ones do. I wish I could fucking explain it, but I can't. I can't see myself ever giving a damn about Doctor Strange 2, or Captain Marvel 2, or Ant-Man and the Wasp 2, or even Spider-Man Far From Home. You know how fundamentally wrong it is for me, HiTop Films, to not be excited for a Spider-Man movie? I don't know why I just went on that tangent. Maybe to set a tone, maybe because I needed to get that off my chest. Who knows? Anyways, a lot of you goons want me to review every MCU movie, do a little retrospective, talk about my thoughts on all 22 movies in the cinematic universe, start at Iron Man and move my way up to Captain Marvel, rate each one, talk about my favorites, least favorites. Well, that's not gonna happen. But I can talk about—
I'm gonna kill some guys!
Watching either of the Guardians films after binge watching the bulk of the MCU is like injecting my gray, flat veins with a concentrated dose of lovely colors and beautiful cinematography. Put that on my f***ing gravestone. That's not in the script.
You should keep it in there.
These two films stand out amongst the rest. They feel much less studio, much less calculated, much more like the vision of one extremely passionate guy.
One more time, that was great. Now give me ow, 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 ow.
James Gunn. Gunn puts himself into his characters, and I love that. He puts his flaws, his insecurities, his fears into his characters, and I love that. Both films are magnificent space operas that are absurd as can be, but also somehow remain the most natural and realistic films in the Marvel Universe.
What the fuck? Realistic? Ha. Nolan's Batman is realistic. Stop sucking that fat Marvel cock.
Yes, realistic. Characters talk like your friends, they talk like you, they talk like your family. The Guardians franchise succeeds because of how easy it is to see yourself and your life in space with the talking raccoon. I could go on and on and on about why these films are so special, why they are gems in a sea of sturdy rocks, but this is supposed to be about one scene, right? Here's your fucking scene. Yeah, I cried. We all cried. The ending of Guardians 2 represents everything these movies are and everything they could and should be. This moment represents love, care, passion, depth, and so much more. I think to understand why Marvel works, why the Endgame tickets crash freaking AMC theaters, we need to understand why this scene works, and why the best of Marvel comes from a man-child, a green warrior, a gun-fetishizing raccoon, a baby tree, a walking thesaurus, a mantis girl, and a member of the Blue Man Group. Guardians 2 is about a lot of things: fatherhood, fear of abandonment, abuse, and a bunch of very adult themes. This final scene is a beautiful culmination of all those themes. This final scene is moving, touching, profound, perfect, and just all the adjectives. This final scene is all about those things and more, because this final scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is about celebrating the flaws of these characters, celebrating their imperfections, and celebrating our very own flaws that make us who we are. Yondu has died. Yondu, the surprise heart and soul of the film. Yondu, the arrow-whistling blue father that we have all come to love. But why do we love him? Why do we love a guy who lost the trust of all his friends, all his family? Why do we love a guy who unknowingly delivered children to this child-murdering douche pickle? Well, in Volume 2, we first meet Yondu after he's done screwing a robot. His crew is laughing, drinking, being a bunch of goofballs. But Yondu is inside, watching their happiness. He's alone. He's so alone that he's having sex with an android. Outside of Kraglin, Yondu has no real connections. He's pushed everyone away: his father, his friends, and his own son. He betrayed the code. He made all the wrong choices and believes that the
Colors of a gourd will never flash over your grave.
Yondu is a product of abuse. All these characters are. That abuse turned him cold. He did things he shouldn't have, most likely to purposely push those around him away. He tried not to care about anyone, even though he probably cared the most. We see this throughout the first Guardians film. He's constantly making excuses for why he hasn't killed Quill, finds reasons to keep saving Quill, and even keeps these little cute knickknacks on his captain's chair. What a sweetheart. But Volume 2 is where we really dive deep into Yondu's character. Gunn makes the perfect move by pairing the blue bastard with Rocket, essentially a younger and debatably angrier version of Yondu. They are the same. Volume 2 knows that.
I know who you are, boy, because you're me.
Both characters have a knack for killing people,
I have a knack for that.
claim they don't care about anyone, and say things that would make you think they don't care.
Hope Daddy isn't as big of a dick as you, orphan boy.
But both characters care immensely. Think about it. The Guardians are Rocket's only friends. They are his family. Rocket's never had family. Yondu's only family was the Ravagers, and he tossed that out the window because he was scared. Rocket is currently trying to toss his family aside because he too is scared. Scared of accepting love, scared of accepting that love and being abandoned. Scared of accepting that love and having it taken away from him. It takes losing his entire crew for Yondu to realize his flaws, so he spends the rest of the movie trying to do something right.
I ain't done nothing right my whole damn life, Rat. You need to give me this.
Trying to make up for those flaws. So in a final act of pure love and bravery, Yondu picks up and rescues Peter Quill while Peter's entire world is crumbling down. For the second time. Only this time he's not afraid to tell him how he feels. He's no longer going to hide behind the whole
He was skinny. Could fit into places we couldn't. Good for thieving.
Yondu has grown, and he's going to use his final moments to express his love for his son.
I'm sorry I didn't do none of it right. I'm damn lucky you're my boy.
Damn, just talking about it makes my eyes wet. Here we are back at the scene. Yondu has died. Notice how he's surrounded by his trolls, his collectibles, his toys, not his weapons. That says a lot without any of the characters having to say anything. The Guardians are honoring their friend. Quill and Kraglin are honoring their father. Quill's real, but flawed father. That's the point of the film, right? Flaws are what make us real, what make us human. Quill's entire arc is about learning that being special doesn't mean shit. He is faced with the option of being an immortal god and permanently playing energy ball catch with his biological father, Kurt Russell. Yet he says no. He says no to being perfect. He says no to being immortal. He chooses to be his flawed self.
If you kill me, you'll be just like everybody else.
What's so wrong with that?
Quill can only grow into a man by accepting that his life may not have the grand, godlike purpose that Ego's does. He literally has to kill Ego to become a hero. He has to kill his own ego to be with Gamora. He has to accept himself as he is and not what he wishes he was. He has to accept his flawed father Yondu in order to become a father himself. And now this final cathartic fireworks show is the period on this lovely sentence of a film. Even though Yondu was flawed, even though he made a bunch of really wrong choices, even though he let his own insecurities, his own anger push everyone he loves away, they still showed up.
I was once like you are now.
They came.
The colors of O'Gorge shine over his ashes. The colors of O'Gorge shine over a flawed Quill. They shine over a flawed Gamora, a flawed Drax, a flawed Mantis, a flawed Kraglin, and most importantly, a flawed Rocket. Rocket sees that
He didn't chase him away, even though he yelled at him.
I was always mean.
and
He stole batteries he didn't need.
Quill looks at Rocket and, you know what? Screw it. To quote the man himself, Quill is surprised. What? And then he looks at Rocket, a little animal who doesn't know the rules of how to be any more than a young boy whose tribe sold him into slavery.
Well, of course not.
That line right there is the conclusion of Peter's arc. He realizes what this moment means to Rocket. He realizes that his father Yondu and his brother Rocket are a lot alike. He now has the maturity to realize that. So he reassures his friend, his family, that despite Rocket's anger, despite his fear of abandonment and his inability to accept love, they will still love him. The Guardians of the Galaxy will always be there for Rocket, not in spite of his flaws, but because of them. Rocket realizes this in the final shot of this scene, this film, are the tears of an abused raccoon who never asked to be made, who never asked to feel so alone, who never knew how to be loved, until now. If the first Guardians film was about learning to share pain, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is about learning to accept that pain, learning to accept each other's flaws and being empathetic enough to understand where those flaws come from. But what does that have to do with the grand MCU? Why is this a key step on the road to Endgame? Because the foundation of Marvel Comics and the foundation of the MCU is flawed characters. We would never have witnessed the success of Marvel Comics if Stan Lee and Steve Ditko never had the balls to conceive a flawed, angsty teen turned Spider-Man. And we would not have witnessed the success of Marvel Studios if Kevin Feige and company never had the balls to make a movie about a billionaire douchebag turned iron hero. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and this scene in particular, is the best example of celebrating the flaws that make these characters so compelling. The truly great films in the MCU understand that a character without flaws, or a character that doesn't face a flawed world, isn't much of a hero, and isn't much of a character at all. Flaws are the reason these characters, all these characters, resonate so well with us. This Farewell to Yondu is a celebration of the different, of the abused, of the flawed. It's a celebration of redemption, and it's a celebration of the MCU. Because without flaws, there truly is no Marvel. The Guardians have to accept their flaws, their humanity, in order to become a modern Marvel. You can become even more marvelous and learn to be a better creator when you sign up with Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators. With Skillshare, you won't need Ego the living douche pickle to teach you anything. Skillshare has more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. That funky premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can join the classes and communities that are just right for you. You don't need a wallet the size of Kevin Feige's to afford Skillshare. The annual subscription fee is less than $10 a month. Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving in 2019. I'm still working on my comic book. I wanted to play the emotional heartstrings like James Gunn, so I turned to Eric Fari's class on how to make a comic book from start to finish, only available on Skillshare. So don't be an angry raboon.
Raccoon, whatever.
The first 500 of you who use that sexy link in the description will get a 2-month free trial. You want to make your own comic, write your own screenplay, be a freaking modern Marvel? Then on your road to Endgame, make sure to click that link in the description and head on over to join more than 7 million creators learning with Skillshare.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Si je